Alright, it's your boy Nine Spiral. Let's rock. Fair use, fair use. YouTube, fair use. I don't quite understand the copyright shit, but hey. And now we're at the World's Fair. We're looking at some images in color. We're gonna break this shit down. I mean, this shit was just too grand. I mean, I dig on it from time to time, man, but you know, you can never get enough of these damn buildings, man. And these folks just come right up on your shit and post up, move in, and just start a whole nother goddamn culture. They say we do a new thing. They didn't know what they was doing. I just spotted that. Told y'all we dig on this shit real time. I don't be knowing what the hell I be saying. I just be putting together some images and footages, and we go through them together. Y'all see something, let me know. See that? See that? Chicken wire and plaster. No, hell no. This shit right here too goddamn easy. Chicken wire and plaster. Goddamn chicken wire and plaster. Shit. Fair use YouTube, fair use, goddamn it. Let me rock on this one. We gonna dig deep. Cause all we wanna know is what the hell y'all was doing at these damn expositions. That's a beautiful picture. And to my understanding, to my knowledge, this was one of the biggest ones. Like, damn, who was rocking in Chicago, man? Y'all let me know. Don't get it twisted. We had them in Georgia, one in Milwaukee. I'm looking for all of them. I want to know where all of them at, goddammit. All right, Nine Spiral, we're back, man. We're digging on my man Kurt, man. He has a good channel, man, on YouTube. Y'all check him out, Captain Kurt. And we digging in Chicago. We digging on Chicago. We just gonna look at some mud flood buildings, right? Because clearly, man, you can look at this picture and you can tell these folks didn't build that shit. There's a lot of shit that they ain't built. You know, I'm even looking into the goddamn Statue of Liberty. If y'all didn't build these buildings, man, everything's up for grabs. Let's go. You can take away them railway systems, nigga. Everything's up for grabs. Now, this will be a good example of one of the pictures. When we study these pictures, right, and we pour over them, this is one of the many examples where we see lack of people, right? So this right here could be, I would surmise that it's before the Chicago World's Fair. And understand, only reason why you see a lot of people and vast amounts of people, especially this one right here in particular, Chicago World Fair, is because they were presenting them with a new culture. Okay, from now on, this is how we're going to live. You gotta understand, these people came over here, they ain't know where the fuck they was. Some of them didn't know who they was. We gonna get into the damn orphan trains. We gonna get into the goddamn insane asylums. What the hell y'all was doing in these insane asylums, man? And who buildings were they? If you familiar with my work on IG, I do a lot of work on insane asylums. Whose cribs are these? Before y'all moved in them and start doing sadistic shit. Where the people at? Where the people at? This is in Chicago, right?
Sit upon the lofty hill and turn your eyes around, where waving woods and waters wild do hymn an autumn sound. The summer sun is faint on them, the summer flowers depart. Sit still as all transformed to stone, except your musing heart. How there you sat in summertime may yet be in your mind, and how you heard the greenwood sing beneath the freshening wind. Though the same wind now blows around, you would its blast recall.
So you're gonna hear a lot of these people that do the mud flood research. You're gonna hear a lot of them refer to horse and buggy people, right? So this is one of the terms that we use to try to show people that these people right here were horse and buggies. want us to believe that they built these structures. Man, I'm looking at the damn bricks, man, about the size of a damn one of these motherfuckers. Look at the bricks. It's about the size of one of these persons, these people. Just look at the brick.
Wind. Though the same wind now blows around, you would its blast recall, for every breath that stirs the trees doth cause a leaf to fall. Oh, like that wind is all the mirth that flesh and dust impart. We cannot bear its visitings when change is on the heart. Gay words and jests may make us smile when sorrow is asleep, but other things must make us smile when sorrow bids us weep. The dearest hands that clasp our hands, their presence may be o'er. The dearest voice that meets our ear, that tone may come no more. Youth fades, and then the joys of youth.
Where the people at? Where the goddamn people at, man? I'll wait. I see 1, maybe 2, 3, maybe 4. Where the people, man?
Which once refreshed our mind, shall come as on those sighing woods, the chilling autumn wind. Hear not the wind, view not the woods, look out o'er vale and hill. In spring the sky encircled them, the sky is round them still. Come autumn's scathe, come winter's cold, come change and human fate. Whatever prospect heaven doth bound can ne'er be desolate.
Muddy streets. Lack of people. They call that antiquity. So all of them seem to be fitted with these long antennas, right? Free energy, right? Let's go. Go back. Nah, you know what? Nah, we're gonna keep it moving. This a whole nother video right here. God damn, look at that, man. You know, like now I understand why, you know what I'm saying, a lot of mud flooders, when they do these research and present, it's a lot of photo, you know what I'm saying, just observing photos and stuff like that. So I've kind of gotten into it because they really do tell you a lot. So I'm picking up that trait, right? I mean, what's that about? Why everybody window shopping? It seemed like. Long ass antenna, a pole. I mean, this is just beautiful. Look at the craftsmanship, man. I mean, just wow. The ornaments, you feel me? Wow. All right, so we're gonna see about this World Fair. I might have to do another video on this one.
Welcome, and today we're going to be discussing the World's Fair of 1893 in Chicago. Recently, we've been discovering a lot of anomalous things with our history, and I think that
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Levi, he's one of the best that do it. Let's go.
the real question is, when did this history really begin? When did we begin? What might be called the reset? When did the reset occur? You know, when we look at photos like this one, what we see is these World's Fairs that occurred in the early 1900s. And these World's Fairs appear to have technologies and seem to be boasting machinery and buildings that we would never again see after the World's Fair. And the historical narrative is that these buildings were built for the World's Fair and torn down after the World's Fair. But when we look at a lot of these technologies and, artifacts on display here, what we see is things that have been inherited by the new people. And everything is on display for one last time. And we would see this great expo of all these buildings and technologies, and then everything would disappear. So again, where did all of this come from? If these earliest photographs come from 1850, early 1900s, then we have to ask, is that when things began? Now we can see signs of many resets and many different timelines. But it's almost useless going any further back than our most recent reset period. What happened here? We arrive on the scene to all of this, and never again do we replicate these technologies. And why do we tear these buildings down? I mean, look at this. Are we really to believe that this building was created only for the World's Fair? I mean, did we really have that much money to throw around to build glory in this fashion only to tear it down after a World's Fair? Unbelievable. And now we're going to research the Chicago World's Fair here a bit. And it was held in 1893 to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival to the New World. The layout of the Chicago Columbia Exposition was in large part designed by John Wellborn Root and a few other guys. It was the prototype of what he and his colleagues thought a city should be. The color of the material generally used to cover the building's facades gave the fairgrounds its nickname, the White City. Many prominent architects designed its 14 great buildings. The exposition covered over 690 acres. The Great Exposition became a symbol of the Victorian era. It also included the first moving sidewalk, a travelator. In 1892, working under...
Whoa. Hold fuck up. Hold fuck up now. John. Can you run that by me again? One more time.
It also included the first moving sidewalk, a travelator. In 1892,
Okay, got it. Okay, so that further validates that these buildings were not made of chicken wire and plaster. Got it.
Working under extremely tight deadlines to complete construction, almost all of the fair structures were designed to be temporary. Of the more than 200 buildings erected for the fair, the only two which still stand in place are the Palace of Fine Arts and the World's Congress Auxiliary Building. From the time the fair closed until 1920, the Palace of Fine Arts housed the Field Columbian Museum. 3 other significant buildings survived the fair. The first is the Norway Building, a recreation of a traditional wooden stave church. The effort to power the fair with electricity, which became a demonstration piece for Westinghouse, had been developing for many years. It was called the War of the Currents between DC and...
Now, just last week, right? I was pondering this, right? Because I'm familiar with Westinghouse and Tesla. They was who they built. They was bidding against who? What's the motherfucker name? Edison. They was bidding against Thomas Edison, right? Tesla right here used to work for Edison. Then he branched off, right? And developed alternating current. Thomas Edison had direct current. So it was a supposed, and this is the narrative. This is just the narrative. So this is the script that they wrote out, right? So it's between AC and DC. A contract went out. Who was going to supply all the electricity to light up the Chicago World's Fair. So you see where I'm going with it? You can throw that shit out the window. So Tesla, Edison, all this electricity shit, you can throw that out the window. Right? Because these buildings were already here. Equipped with its own fucking lightning. You see what I'm saying? It had its own shit. So you see the narrative that they paint. So you see how they get you to pay homage, honor to one man? Oh man, Nikola Tesla, oh man, bullshit. They invented nothing. They inherited this shit, man. Oh, Thomas Edison, man, them folks ain't do shit, man. And they get you to deify one man. Nikola Tesla was a fucking agent just like the rest of them. I told you they was creating this shit up as they go. Shit.
AC. This was also the first time that power would be displayed for mankind. And this was a fight between Edison and Tesla would eventually win this contract.
Bullshit.
Now here is a look at what they called the White City. Now apparently this was constructed, once again, in a few years for the World's Fair. Now if this isn't the hokiest story I think I've ever heard in my life, then I don't know what is. If this looks like this was something that was built within a few years for the World's Fair in Chicago and then torn down, then there's no limit to what we could be force-fed. Once again, we really have to be logical here. Now, if we didn't know that this was in Chicago, we certainly might think this was in Europe. And to imagine that something like this would be built for a fair, when in present times this would probably take years to construct. Years. And again, we're to believe that they had the resources to build something like this, only to level it. And this is one of many hundreds of buildings that were apparently built.
Yeah, my man, Howdy, I'm gonna bring him up. You know, he said his contractor, a friend of his, right? Architect. He's an architect, I think. He said, man, look here, man. It'll take 2 to 3 years just to draw this shit up. But here it is, you got a motherfucker way back then in 1893 that not only drew it up, but built it within 3 years. I mean, just look at the fucking bridge, man. Man, get y'all ass out of here.
For this World's Fair, only to be torn down. And they call this the agricultural building. Now, does this seem like the agricultural building or some kind of Greek Roman building in any part of the world but America? But no, this was apparently just thrown up only to be destroyed, just for an event. We now use tents and portable such things for events. No, back then, white marble stone was just fine for temporary usage. Now again, the great Ferris wheel that they boasted, and again, the beginning of electricity. I mean, look at these electric things they're displaying. Some kind of
There you go. It was already here. Tesla ain't do shit. There you go. It's already there right in front of you. We looking at some shit we don't even understand, and they didn't understand it at the time. That's why they tore it down. Or they probably figured out how it worked, then tore it down. You see? These folks just move right on in, man. God damn, man, we want our things back. Can we have our things back, right? Oh, okay, you gonna wait on the Most High to come back and give it to us? Okay.
Energy conducting mechanism. We don't even know, but apparently that was something that you could display in the late 1800s at the World's Fair. These may have been Tesla's displays. It was the first time he would introduce.
Bullshit. Tesla ain't do shit. These things were already here, man. Now, whether they figured out how to work them and perfected them, who knows? But don't tell me no one man did such feats. No. These things were already here. There's nothing new under the sun. What goes around comes around.
His motors to the world. Again, fully lit up. Late 1800s. But again, was this infrastructure already here? Or was this really built for a single event? A temporary event? And the Ferris wheel, pretty interesting Ferris wheel, pretty amazing actually. A true monster. Just like everything back then was glorious. Well, so is this Ferris wheel. Look at this. A little apartment. Each
We want our things back. Oh, they built this too, huh?
cabin is the size of a studio apartment. Amazing. And again, ask yourself, could this have been built for one short little event? This kind of detail and how identical it looks to what we find all over the world. Notice how there's no ships. And here again is a view of this 600 acres of buildings that they supposedly built only to tear down. No. The plan is to tear this down and to have one last little hoorah and take credit for all of this glory. Now look at the crowd here. I mean, this looks like Disneyland. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know if this one is made of stone. This may be a cheap replica, I'm not sure. But the one in the back certainly isn't.
I concur. It does look like a cheaper version. I concur with that.
No. This was not built for the World's Fair back here. And again, looking north between mines and electricity buildings. So that's really interesting. Who is this source? Friedman Fine Arts. So very interesting, actually. That Friedman Fine Arts should call these electricity buildings. And that's exactly what we're coming to realize that they are now. And again, Look at this. I mean, if this was not the most glorious city, and again, I want you to recall the story that I told just moments ago about these designers of the World's Fair and how they were imagining the perfect city. And this is, what they designed. I don't think so. This was a perfect city. And we waltz in here, have a World's Fair, have a big party, and we destroy it.
Alright. Coming up next, we got Mr. Howdy Mikowski. Let's go.
Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to my video today on the Columbian Exposition, the Chicago World's Fair of 1893. It's the subject of 2 chapters of my book, Exposing the Expositions, Ancient Roman America. And it was this World's Fair that got me interested in looking at all of the World's Fairs and starting to wonder what these actually were. Were we seeing what we were actually seeing? And this is a more complete photo of the image that appeared on my book cover, and this is the Great Court of the Chicago World's Fair, a very, very small part of it. The Chicago Exposition was a 690-acre site, and it was supposedly built from scratch in 2 years. That included all the planning, the landscaping, the construction of the buildings, all the canals dug, the roads and sidewalks put in, the midway rides up, all of it running. And when you just think about it, what kind of planning does that even require to be producing buildings like this? And again, the roadways, the waterworks, everything which was supposedly built over top of a swamp. Even if you had 100,000 workers to do the job, Chicago claimed to have 40,000. I mean, who was feeding them every day? Where did all the bathrooms go? Where did the materials go? Where did the materials get to the site? And this was all done without any modern machines, trucks, or supposedly even electrical power. I mean, just look at a building like this. This is one of 14 giant buildings, along with hundreds of other buildings on the site. All of this built in just 2 years' time, 1891 to 1893, upon which all of this was destroyed. This began to get me very curious. And so I went to ask a building contractor friend of mine, and I showed him the entire Columbian Exposition photographs of 1893, some of which you're going to see here in this video. And I simply asked him, could this be built in 2 years? And he looked at the photos and he just said, no, not possible. I said, not possible, I asked. He looked more at the photos and explained, look, it would take 2 years just to have the architectural and landscaping plans drawn up. This is a complex building project, and it has to be planned out properly. You can't just start throwing things up without having a good plan of where everything is going to be and why. How are those lakes going to be made, dug out, and set up so be sure there's no flooding? Okay, then you're going to need 2 years to do the landscaping and make the lakes and the canals and the road. And I'm talking 2 years with modern equipment. Then you can get to the buildings. And I'm going to need at least 10 more years for that. So I asked him back, so 10 to 15 years with modern machines? He said, yeah, give or take. If I had 50,000 guys and all the machines I wanted and an unlimited budget, then yeah, 10 to 15 years. So then I asked him the key question. Do you have any idea how this could have been done in 2 years between 1891 and 1893? And again, this is the response of a building contractor who builds large-scale buildings every day of his life. And when I asked him, could this be done in 2 years, in 1891, he said, with the technology available at the time, it's just not possible. So for this to be...
It's not possible. It's no way possible.
True, this project equals the building of the pyramids in Egypt. So, after that conversation, I began a very detailed study. This is the manufacturer's building, and the manufacturer's building was the largest at the fair. It was 1,650 feet long, which is 6 football fields long. It covers 30 acres. The center is 200 feet high, which is half the size of the Great Pyramid. 8 domes were on either sides of it, and outside the building it was lit by 10,000 electric lights, which is supposed to be more lights than existed in all of New York City at the time. The building was 4 times as large as the Roman Colosseum, and the Colosseum could seat 80,000 people. At the opening ceremony in 1892, this is the interior of it, it had 100,000 people, and they were easily accommodated in this, which is about the size of the current Rose Bowl in Pasadena. And it is suggested that 300,000 people could have been there for this event. So, again, are you really just going to build this completely as a temporary structure, or are you going to be putting a tremendous amount of time and patience in building into something this important? I mean, you don't want this collapsing on top of the 100,000 most important people in Chicago. So let's just look at some of the buildings. I don't want to go into tremendous detail of the size and the scale, just again to show you the main buildings of the Columbian Exposition. This one is still there, actually. This is the Palace of Fine Arts. This is the only building that survived the fair. The one that they claimed had to be built to last. The others were all temporary buildings, but they built this one for real because it housed some of the world's most famous artwork. The amount of material that was sent to this fair from around the world is staggering, actually. The total numbers are mind-bending. And the world's art structures were all placed in this supposedly permanent structure in order to get the insurance to allow the countries to send all of their art treasures. This is the interior of that building, of the Palace of Fine Arts, which was the Chicago Field Museum for a while before it moved to another spectacular Roman-style building, again supposedly built in 1920. And this was the building in 1924, I believe, after they had moved. And it does show some signs of wear and tear. It does show some signs of temporary-ish building, but it's still quite the question. I would really like to look at the foundation of this building and see what's actually under it. What is this thing actually underneath built of? The electrical building, or the machinery building. So these are many of the structures and the interiors of what you would see at the Columbian Exposition. This is a nice picture. This is a picture now of the state building. So each state in the United States also had their own building, including ones such as this. This is the Illinois building, which again would be a spectacular structure in of itself, just to build this. But there's more. Here's some of the other state buildings, like Pennsylvania and Delaware. There's Iowa, there's Missouri, there's Montana, there's Arkansas, there's Maine, Vermont, and Rhode Island. Again, all of these buildings are being built at the same time. Everything else is being built with no machines, no technology, no electricity. Each country had their own buildings as well. This is one of the German buildings that were there, looking like a Bavarian town hall. Here's one of the main restaurants. There were hundreds of restaurants that existed. Norway sent a Viking ship, partially to let people remind them that in their history, Leif Erikson was the first one to reach the United States, not Christopher Columbus. This is the famed Ferris wheel that sat in the new area known as the Midway, a specific thing built to try to outdo what had been done in Paris, which had built the Eiffel Tower as its main trademark, apparently. And so this was to match it, and it was a 250-foot high structure, 36 cars, 40 passengers. Over 3 million people rode this first Ferris wheel. But if you look in the background, you can see some of the size as well of the Midway, which included not just games and music and food like you would think of a modern Midway. This also included what were known as anthropological exhibits, where natives from all over the world are basically displayed as a zoo. Eskimos with their mush dogs, Penbeset wigwams.
And I'm going to tell you why. It's because this is the history that they wanted everybody to learn from then on. Because we know up until the 1400s, races of men did not exist. Now, y'all can challenge me on that. Let's go. But we got DNA codes and all kind of shit. up into the 1400s. The whole face of the plane was melanated. So that's another reason I just wanted to point that out. It is very important for us Nagas to understand that. And for anybody, I don't care what race you are. It's very important for you to know up into the 1400s, the whole face of the plane was melanated. And Benjamin Franklin told you that. Word to Caramillo. Alright, we're rocking with Shelly from There's No Place Like Home. Let's rock.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shelly, and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. It's been a while since I've done a Question the Narrative video, and this is a topic that has interested me for some while, but I actually got a renewed interest in it from watching a video on the John Levi channel the other day, and I'll get to how that happened a little bit later. But how much do you know about the World's Fair? I'm not going to talk so much about the World's Fair itself today, but about the actual architecture, the building, because that in itself is something that really makes you think once you actually go back to the time period that a lot of these fairs took place in and realize that it kind of seems to be out of place. So the first time that I actually heard of a World's Fair was in Men in Black when they mentioned the Coney Island World's Fair. So like when you picture the Coney Island World's Fair, it just looks like a typical fair. When I hear fair, I think carnival. That's what comes into my mind, some sort of big festival. And really that's what a lot of these images from the Coney Island Fair look like. And I believe this one took place in 1939. But what I'm really interested in are the older World's Fairs. Because if you look down here, the World's Fair actually began in 1851. The first one was actually, I believe it was in London. It was in England. And, well, you'll see. Let's first of all head over to the Crystal Palace in London. So this is a rendering of the Crystal Palace in 1851. And while we are looking at these photographs, I want you to think about the time period that we are living in, and I want you to look at the architecture. So this is a rendering of what the Crystal Palace looks like, and right here is an actual photo of the Crystal Palace in 1851. And I don't know about you, but when I think of the 19th century, I don't think of stuff like this. Look at how landscaped it is. Look at this beautiful building. And, you know, it really is like that with most of the older World's Fairs. Let's look at some World's Fair buildings here. They're amazing. This was in 1893. Now, again, look at the architecture. Look at the intricacy. And here's the thing. The storyline of the World's Fair buildings is that they were created, the landscaping and the buildings were created for the World's Fair. And most of it was actually destroyed after the World's Fair is over. So imagining not only having all the resources in the 19th century, but the technology to build things like this? How did they do this in the 19th century when, in fact, a lot of people were first getting settled? When I think, again, of 19th century, this is not what I'm thinking. So how are they doing it? How did they build these things? Now, something else that they will tell you is that the reason that this is the Chicago World's Fair, I believe, I'm not sure, but Chicago World's Fair is actually what I'm going to be focusing on a lot today. But again, look at the columns, the details. How are they doing this? How is a civilization that is transported by horse and buggy and, as far as I know, does not have power tools or cranes, how did they do this? And how is it that it was such an easy feat for them that they were able to do this in such a short amount of time? It doesn't add up. And I know that a lot of people are speculating that many of these World's Fair buildings were actually there when the people first settled. They were left there by another civilization that had already been living in America. And, you know, it's interesting to think about. Am I saying that that's 100% true? No. But
come on, Miss Shelly. Come on now. You were doing good. Don't do that.
I am saying that, yeah, sometimes you really need to wonder about the history that we're taught, because we know that a lot of it is made up. And unfortunately, a lot of the information that we get from the world about the World's Fair comes from the Smithsonian. And I think that we've learned that the Smithsonian really, unfortunately, can't be trusted. So, and there's just some more photos.
I was making so much money with DoorDash. I wanted to...
Oh, bad. Got hijacked by one of them goddamn ads.
The 1893 Chicago World's Fair. This is 1893 Chicago World's Fair. I am going to remind you, this landscaping and these buildings were all built for the World's Fair. Now, they claim that it took them 3 years to get all of this set up. The World's Fair itself lasted 6 months. But they claim that it took them 3 years to set this all up, and most of it was actually taken down afterwards. They claim that the reason that it was so easy was because the buildings were just made of plaster and chicken wire. But to me, that doesn't really, again, something else that doesn't add up, because if you look inside, this is also from the Chicago World's Fair. You can look inside these buildings. Now, according to articles, it says that 27 million people visited the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. And these buildings, you can't see inside, I don't think. Maybe there's one down here. Okay, here we go. So yeah, so people could travel through the buildings there. These weren't just buildings that were there that you just look at the outside and say, oh, they're so pretty, and then you just move on. No, you could actually walk. They were actual buildings. And
so you see how they play on the psyche, right? And great point she brought out, you know what I'm saying? A chicken wire and plaster, right? But you expect us to believe that people walk through these buildings, and we talking thousands, and the building didn't crumble, huh? The plaster didn't, you know. I mean, it's just senseless, man. But this is the brainwashing that they do, and you know what I'm saying? And that's why they knew this generation here was coming, and Nagas like us and Gentiles like them was gonna cut straight through the hijack. And that's what we doing. Let's go. I said, let's go.
And in fact, what they do say is that a lot of these buildings were taken down, and they were just kind of, I don't remember if it was auctioned off or if kind of like scavengers like bought the pieces of the buildings they claim. But why would you do that? Why would you spend so much time building these structures only to take them down? And again, we're going to go back to, people are going to say, well, but they said that they weren't real buildings. Well, they were real buildings, because you can't go inside of a building that is not real. 27 million people in the 19th century.
That you can't go inside a building that is not real. She got down on that one.
Who ride horses and buggies are able to go into these.
The horse and buggy people built these buildings.
Beautiful buildings that a lot of them were just seen to be disposable. But the thing is that a lot of them were not disposable. Right here is a picture of one of the buildings from one of the World Fairs. It was from the Panama Pacific. It was from the Panama Pacific International Exposition. And it was actually sold. and they actually floated it down the river to take it to where it was going to go. So why would somebody...
Whoa. Hold up, Miss Shelly. Now, Miss Shelly say somebody bought a piece of the building from the exposition in San Francisco and floated this motherfucker down the water to him. Game over. This ain't no damn chicken wire and plaster, man.
Buy something if it was not a real building. You know, they do move buildings all the time. You can actually see an example of this in one of the John Levi videos that I just watched. I'll leave a link to his channel because it really is amazing. He has so much information
check out my man John
on these
Levi.
World's Fair.
Alright, so I got a special treat today. I was able to find this footage from Chicago from the 1893 World's Fair, and the quality is not the best, but it's the best I could find as of now. If I find a better copy, then maybe I'll redo this video. But basically what we're looking at here is a canal tour via a gondola kind of ride through the canals of the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. Now the interesting thing about the Chicago World's Fair is it was the biggest one, and because of that it stayed, it ran the longest. It ran longer than the San Francisco or even the Buffalo one. And, like I said, the quality's not the best, but we can see a few things here. It's just kind of an interesting kind of piece of film, to appreciate. I'll put the link in the description to the original source. And, I just kind of take a nice little relaxing trip down an 1893 canal. And like I said before, about these World's Fairs, there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people say that these are built out of paper mache and, chicken wire and plywood. I don't think so. Maybe that's a little bit of plausible deniability there somewhere. But just look at this here. This is I think this is the main entryway that they're going under here in a second. And it's a darn shame that it's not better quality, but you can kind of get an idea of how grandiose this was. But as I was saying, I just don't see that theory holding up. That this was all plywood and plaster and chicken wire. And then the other thing that intrigues me is they talk about how many people came, and I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that there was a lot of people there. The photographs show that, and it actually lines up with the inheritor theory and with the mud flood theory that they had to bring in people. I just don't see people spending the money at the time in the official narrative saying that they were able to spend the money that, we were a depressed country at the time. Not everybody had money to travel and to dress nice, and, travel was slow and arduous at the time. So really what I think it is they had the people shipped in. Okay, and they say there were some famous people there, and I'm sure there were some famous people there, and that was kind of part of the cover